We're live, so I hope you are. I'm just going to go over just onto my page to check that we have actually gone live to make sure we're showing up. It's not showing up yet. Can you see it on your side, Liz?
Just going to check.
Here we go. We're on. It's just a bit of a delay. We're there, though. Awesome stuff. Cool. I am so pleased to have you here. Liz Melville is in the house. Thank you so much for joining us here on my page. I have got a ton of questions. So Liz, I'm just going to hand over to you to introduce yourself to the world and let my peeps know who you are and why you're so awesome.
Oh, thanks, Jen. You have to build up like that. Hi, I am Liz Melville, and I help women who are kind of in the online space. So they've got some kind of business where they need to be online and predominantly on Facebook. So I help them build connections and community at a much deeper level using Facebook marketing and Facebook ads as well. So yeah, that's really what I do, and that's makes it sound really simple, but Facebook is never simple. So it really is about, you know, looking at all the tools you've got on Facebook and how can you best use them in your business to make an impact and to be seen as the expert and to be credible and to build those all important communities. So that's what I do. And I'll just say while we're live that apologies for any noise in the background. My little kitten has suddenly decided to go absolutely mad running around the office.
It's absolutely fine. It's all real stuff. It's fine. But no, I absolutely love what you do. And I love what you said about, you know, Facebook isn't necessarily always easy because it's ever changing. But at the same time, do you know what? That's kind of what I love about it. They're putting new things all the time to help us out. And I'm just going to get stuck in with a kind of a really juicy question. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory to this question before I fire in. When I first started out on the online space around 18 months ago, I was focusing very heavily on my page, and I wasn't getting, well, let's just be completely honest about it. I was getting absolutely no traction at all on my page. And so being that at that point in time, I didn't have a team. It was just me and I was doing all of the work. I had to make a decision, and I made the decision to focus on a Facebook group versus my Facebook page. And that came, you know, that reaped so many rewards for me because it enabled me to build a community and actually monetize that community. Whereas at that particular time, my Facebook page wasn't doing the job like my group did. However, it seems like the landscape since then has changed. What's your view on that versus groups versus pages and where we're at now?
That is a juicy question to get started with. It's a great question though. And I think if we'd been talking, 12 months ago, 18 months ago, it would be a completely different conversation, because it's exactly as you said, Jen, Facebook is changing all the time. I mean, sometimes it feels like it's on a daily basis. But I think the core of it is the Facebook algorithm. It's much talked about, and you can curse and you can swear about it, whatever you like. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. But it does drive who sees what on Facebook. And as far as Facebook pages are concerned, organic reach, and by organic, I mean that you're not paying for it. So it's just you putting a post on your page, sending it out, and hopefully some of your fans see it. But because Facebook's determining who sees it, and it's not just enough that you're a fan or like the page, you still may not see it if you haven't been engaging with that page. And that organic reach has absolutely gone through the floor in the last 12 months. And we're talking, at the moment, on average, only about 1 to 3% of your page likes might see any one post. So for a lot of, people, that's like, well, what's the point? I might as well not bother. And it's put a lot of people off being on pages, and instead they've turned to groups. And that's where you can really build community. Now, I think there's nothing wrong in doing that, but I think it really comes down to your strategy, because I am a firm believer that you can still get great engagement on your Facebook page. You can still get the conversation going, and you can be above average. It doesn't need to be that you only get 1 to 3% engagement. You can get phenomenally more than that if you put the work in and you've got a really well thought out strategy on how you're going to do it. So I think for me, every business is different in that, and there's no one right or wrong way to do it. For some, you might just want a Facebook page so you can run ads, and you want to focus on building community in a group. That might work better for you. But for others, particularly if you're product based, a community might be no need to that. So actually, you need to focus on your page, and then it comes down to, well, how am I going to get that engagement? How am I going to make the algorithm work for me instead of just sitting trying to fight it and throwing your hands up in the air saying, oh, woe is me, this is not going to work. It really is down to strategy in my book.
I love the way you talk about the algorithm like it's something that we can control. That actually makes me feel a lot better, because I think for a lot of us, we feel this it's like this little gremlin that sits behind, like the algorithm is like it's on the loose. And it's like, oh no, not the algorithm. But the fact that you said that we can kind of control that and learn to use it to our advantage just absolutely makes me feel like, okay, wow, there is hope for business pages. And the thing is that we can all get sucked into this negativity loophole of, pages don't work. And I'm just the first one to admit, I was banging that drum for several months. When I decided to wipe and stop working my page and going to my group, that was great. But I was banging that drum of it just doesn't work. But really and truthfully, when you look around you, you can see that there are people absolutely rocking their Facebook pages and managing to monetize it. And that was the reason I switched from my page into my group. It was like, I'm just going to be real here. Yes, I wanted a community. Yes, I wanted engagement, but I also wanted to monetize my audience. And I just felt like I couldn't do that on my Facebook page at that time. And recently, what's happened is my business is all about, being high profile, going out there, showing your face, being visible and being the expert publicly. And you just can't do that by sticking in your Facebook group. And so then I was like, now hold on a second. I'm now not getting my message out there to as many people as I want to. I'm a legacy leaver and I want to make sure that gets out there, and I can't do that hidden away. So how can we control this algorithm or use it to our advantages? What are your best tips on that?
Wow. I think, I'm not sure control's the right word.
I'd like to think it's control.
It's not in control. I mean, Facebook knows exactly what they're doing with the algorithm. I think it's just that we on the other side of that sit and go, I have no idea what you're doing with that. But for anyone who's not familiar with the algorithm, all it is it's like 100,000. It's a big bucket, and every piece of content that goes onto Facebook goes into all these screens and and filters, and it's like little sieves going down through that bucket to who makes it out onto the news feed. And none of us know what all those filters are. There's about 100,000 of them. So to try and control it, you just couldn't. But there are some core kind of factors in it that you can almost look at and say, right, well, if I know that that's what Facebook's screening my content for and how it's deciding to put my content onto which news feeds, I can use that information to determine my strategy that I do make it work for me. So, for example, it will very much look at how often are you engaging with other Facebook pages, with your friends, all of that stuff to decide whether it puts their content onto your newsfeed. So it becomes engagement is absolutely crucial, because if nobody's talking to you on your Facebook page, Facebook's saying, well, nobody's bothered, nobody's interested, I'll not serve the next lot of content that comes out to anybody. So you need to break that cycle. And I think that's where it's a great question, Jen, is how do you do that? And it's, for me, it's about putting your community first, putting your ideal client first. And I know it's talked about a lot, and it's easy to say, I know who my ideal client is, but do you really? And it's getting to that granular level of what makes them tick. Where are they at in their lifestyle right now? What's going on in their life? And so are you after mums who have got older children, mums who've got younger children? Because what they're doing in their lives will be very different, even just with that different demographic. And what you talk about to someone like that is going to be very different to a 65-year-old male. So you've kind of got to know where they're at, what they want to talk about when they're on Facebook, that you can serve interesting content that they want to engage with. But then it's about taking it that next stage. It's not about, oh, well, there's a great article or I've written this post. It's about how have you written that to encourage them to engage. So, there's certain ways of writing a post that is almost a call to action, that people will write a comment rather than just a tell, where they read it, make their own mind up about what they've read, and then move on without leaving a comment. And it's so crucial that you get that comment, a like or a share. So it is about thinking about, who is my ideal client? what's going on with them, what's going to interest them on Facebook, not what you want to tell them about your business, and
Yeah.
focus on that content and putting it out. And then I think it's also about looking at the frequency of that. How often do you need to put content out to engage with them, that you don't hit that tipping point where they go, oh, overwhelmed, too much, I can't get through it all. But you're still piquing their interest, that they're waiting for content coming out from you.
Absolutely. And I think we can all get, particularly when we first start our businesses, I feel like this is very prevalent, where we are talking at people rather than having conversations or, asking. And I feel like we become so scared to ask just in case nobody says anything. So we stop asking, or we ask once and then that's it. And then we stop doing it. What do you think about, a kind of a bit of a jump start? Because for somebody who has a Facebook page and they're getting no engagement, they are absolutely putting stuff out there, but it's a bit like coming in to somewhere and people are scrolling through and noticing that there's a lack of engagement, and so they will always be the first one to kind of step up and make that first comment. What do you think about sort of networking and getting your biz besties to come in and help kickstart that? Do you think, is that a good strategy, pros and cons?
Yeah, that's another good question, Jen. And what a lot of people do is when they start up a business page, they go and ask their friends to like it, because we all have that fear of, well, nobody's going to talk to me if it's an empty shop. It makes me look unpopular and I need some kind of credibility. So if I get a few of my friends on the page, it looks like there's somebody dining there and, folk will come in. It doesn't necessarily work that way, because at the end of the day, that's actually just a vanity metric. It's your ego that's wanting you to have likes on that page. What's far more important is having the right number of likes from your ideal client and then getting their engagement. So I think, yes, get your business besties to like your page, support things, share your posts, if they have got connections and networks that are your ideal client, who are likely to engage with your page. Because if you don't, and you just get lots of empty likes onto the page, and by empty, I mean they're probably not ever going to come back, look at your content, never going to engage in a month of Sundays, that can actually harm your page, because it's back to the algorithm. The algorithm's looking at it going, well, there's this huge big tranche of people on that page who are not interacting. It's not that popular. We're going to give priority in the newsfeed to pages that have got lots of engagement and highly engaged fans. So there can be a danger in just getting anybody, your mother, your friends, your family, to like your page when you're getting started. That can actually be counterproductive. Far better to look at, how can I attract right out the gate people who are my ideal client and who will want to hear my content and engage with it.
Absolutely. And am I right in saying as well that, if you do, like you said, it's great to go and get those complementary people who have audiences where your ideal client sits. I would say that was perfect. But if you are that person who is so scared and have got their mother, father and their dog to like their page, is that then going to damage their ability to use Facebook ads as well?
It won't damage their ability to use them, because they can still use them. And actually, that's probably a good thing to then look at, is how can I maybe use Facebook ads to target a very specific audience of my ideal client, that I can serve my posts directly to them. But what a lot of people do is, nobody's talking to me, I'm going to run a Facebook ad to get people to talk to me on my page, or I'll run a page likes ad. And what they don't stop to think about is, how do I get a return on that investment in the ad? How do I actually use them and learn to use them? And it's almost a bit like, if I decide I was going to fix my car, I could read a manual that might tell me what to do. Would I fix it? Probably not. It wouldn't work. So I think there is that element. If you're going to run Facebook ads to do it, make sure you know what you're doing. Otherwise, it's a quick way to lose money. And that's typically what happens. And folks throw their hands in the air. It's like, Facebook ads don't work. They do if you know what you're doing and you use the right ad for the right objective. So I think it's, having all these wrong likes on your page won't damage your ability to use Facebook ads, but it does affect your ability to use certain audiences and target your ads to them. So if you wanted to target your ads to your page audience, that can be a very cost-effective thing to do. Because if they're engaged, Facebook rewards you with lower cost to your ads. So if you've got a page full of people who are not really engaged and are not true audience, true ideal customer, then you might not see any benefit through the cost of your Facebook ads from that.
Oh, that's really interesting. And again, we can be a breed of people who absolutely adore Facebook and love using it, but then also treat them like the enemy, like they're not. The fact that you said that they're actually rewarding you for having an engaged audience incentivizes you to say, okay, let's try and work this organically before we hit the ads. And you just mentioned about I guess and again, I don't know this because I'm not a Facebook. This is why I've got you on here to talk about this, because you're a Facebook expert, and especially when it comes to ads. Would you say that it damages, because this is the rumor that I've been hearing, it damages your ability to retarget your ideal client if you were to do retargeted ads, if you've got all sorts of likes on your page? Is that right, or is that a myth?
I think it's one of those things. There's a part element of truth and a part element of no, not at all. When it comes to retargeting your ideal audience, when we talk about retargeting, all we're really talking about is using audiences of people you've already got to serve ads to. So that might be people who have visited your website, it might be people who have been on your Facebook page, it might be people who've seen other ads that you've run, or people on your email list, for example. And you can create an audience within Facebook of these people who have already become aware of you. Now, when you serve your ads to these people, because they already know who you are, there's more chance they're going to react to your ads. You get a better conversion rate, and that lowers your costs. So by having the wrong people on your page, it really just means that it might not be the best idea to serve your ads to an audience that's made up of the people on your page, because they wouldn't be the right people who would then take the action you want them to take in the ad, if that makes sense. So you might not see the benefit in a lowered ad cost coming through, and you might not see, the returns that you'd like because of the wrong people. So you're talking to the wrong people with your ads. Whereas if you're building these audiences for your ads from people who are your ideal client and have got to know you, then you will see the benefit. So yeah, it's not so much that they harm your ads, it's just that you might decide not to use that audience to serve your ads to, because it's not the right person.
Yeah, and it's not, and so rather than it damaging, it's just not working. It's just not going to work for you if you're serving ads to the wrong audience. Is really the simple answer to that. Thank you for clearing that up, because that was something I've been hearing a lot around. And I'm going to be completely transparent. What happened on my page when I first started in the online space, and not first started in the online space, first started in the online space in this capacity, I decided to use the same Facebook page that I had for an old business. And so there's probably about 200 to 300 likes on my business page that were for an old business, and not really realizing that, like, all of this information now that I've learned over the time that I've spent on the online space, I'm now like, oh my goodness, what do I do? However, I mean, I don't know what your view on this is. I feel like at this point, I've probably I've got I'm about 3 likes, by the way, people. I'm about 3 likes away from from hitting 1,000. So like my page. But yeah, so the top heavy side of it are with my ideal clients. Touch wood. Is it because I had this debate in my head? Do I pull the plug completely and start again, or do I just deal with what I've got now? What's your view on this, and to anyone else in the same dilemma?
I'm going to give that usual answer. It depends.
I love that, depends. So in my situation where I'm top heavy with ideal clients, say 200 not.
Yeah, I think if you're top heavy with your ideal clients, keep going as you're going, and focus on how do you engage with that big proportion of your ideal clients, because that's who you want to talk to. And I think so often we kind of get into the stage that we want every single person on our page to love us and to be our ideal client. That's never going to happen. I mean, it's the same with the email list. Through natural process, you'll get people on there who are maybe not a good fit, because we all change our messages. We change maybe our focus. And as we evolve, then we have different kind of groups of customer that might have followed us through that journey, and our message is no longer relevant. So some of those will still be on your page, some of those will still be in your email list. I think it's then about, well, okay, from time to time, you need to do a kind of re-engagement campaign. How do I bring in as many people with my messages being very, very authentic, standing up for what you believe in, and just putting out that true core message that attracts in the people who really want to talk to you and who are right for you. The people who are not will probably drift away. So if they're only a small proportion, I tend to feel, it's a lot of resource and time to worry about them, and should I delete them out? Because the time it would take to identify them, do that, and make a judgment call on whether they were ever going to engage with your page, or maybe they've just been on holiday for 2 weeks and couldn't. How do you make that call? So I think it's more important and a better use of time to focus on your big proportion of ideal clients and engaging them, and what's your strategy and your content strategy going to be for doing that.
I absolutely love what you just said there, Liz. Obviously being my specialism within niche and ideal client is that I feel like one of the biggest problems that people have is they spend so much time working out who their ideal client is, and then they get these massive big like gates that come up. They're just like trying to block anyone who doesn't vaguely fit into that box. And we spend so much of our time pushing instead of pulling in the right people. And I think you're totally right. Through natural selection, through just being you and being authentic, that natural process will sort all of that for you. Just start making sure you're talking to the people who you do want to be speaking to, and those other people will naturally fall off. What sometimes happens is, and I've been pulled in, again, I'm not sitting on an ivory tower here, I've been pulled into that same trap, as you well know, Liz, being in the mastermind together. I started to talk to people who were not my ideal client, and almost like pushing against it instead of actually helping the right people to step up. And that's so key, I think, when it comes to building your audiences, is focusing on growing rather than putting the gates up. Because I think it can just, you spend so much time and energy doing that instead of pulling in that audience. So what are the ways in which you can grow? And because again, likes are kind of vanity metrics. That's one side to it, right? The things that people really truly want is the gumph, the stuff, the comments, and that, that conversation that goes on. So what are your best tips and strategies for, first of all, improving the likes on your page, but also getting that conversation going?
Okay. And it's what everyone wants to know. How do I do that?
Yeah, you've got like 10 seconds to like tell us everything you know. Okay.
101. I think it is about taking that step back, and before you kind of sit and go, I need to post something on Facebook today, actually thinking about, right, who am I talking to, and why should they care? Whatever it is I'm about to say, why should they give a damn? Because it is that thing about breaking out the cycle of, oh, I've got this promotion I need to tell people about, I've got this freebie I want them to sign up for, I've got this interview I'm doing I need them to know about. It's not about you, it's about what they want to hear. So you do need to take a step back. So first and foremost, take a step back and take a blank piece of paper and actually write down, right, who is my ideal client? What did they want to hear about? What kind of topics could I start to talk about? Being authentic to me and my message and what I do, but talk about it in a way that engages them and interests them. And where could I maybe find other sources of material for that from other people, other websites, that I'm not having to write all this myself, and that you're continually serving the right kind of content at the right level. And so I think once you've kind of got that plan of what you're going to talk about, who you're talking to, it really is a case of then, when are you going to put it out? What's your strategy? And having a purpose behind every single post. And I always talk to my clients and my students about this. If you're writing on Facebook, every single post should have a purpose. Are you informing people about something? Are you entertaining them? Lighthearted relief, we all need that. Or are you promoting something? And it's getting the right balance of that on your page.
I was literally just going to say that, because I find that some people, they tend to stick to the same route, it's all lighthearted or it's all informative, and there's not this balance. And so it's so true. Absolutely. What would you say because again, banish the myth or help us out in terms of how to get around this? Because I think for a lot of people, they think that having a business page will automatically mean that they're just suddenly going to get a ton of likes, but that's not the case. And obviously, again, banish the myth if this is the case. But in order to get people to see what's on your page, they need to like it, right?
Well, interestingly, initially it's good if they do like it, because then they're kind of almost holding their hand up and saying, I endorse this person, I really like what they're saying, and I like that page. So by that, then the algorithm's almost going, ding, that person likes the page. If they've engaged with it, we'll serve them more content from that page. So it's almost like a tier of endorsement, if you like. Mm-hmm. So if they like it, that's almost the best. They're liking and following your page. Facebook will, if they continue to engage, will give them more of your content. So that's great. That's what you want. But they might also choose that they're just following the page content. They haven't actually liked it, but they're following it. They'll still get the chance to see your content. But most people, they might visit the page and like a post and like the page. 95% of people will never visit your page again. Never visit it.
Yes.
What happens is they'll see your content through their news feed. So they're just logging into Facebook, they're looking at the news feed, and they're scrolling through with their thumb, on mobile, or they're looking through on desktop, and they're stopping through content that interests them. They're not going, I want to go and see what Jen's put on her page today. As fabulous as it will be, they're not going to actually go to that page. They're just going to look at the news feed. And this is where your content is only going to be in their news feed if they've been engaging with your page. And this is why it's so crucial to get that engagement. And people are not going to engage if you just broadcast to them all the time. And that's why, for me, Facebook has got to be about community. It's got to be about putting your ideal client first and what they want to hear about, and nurturing those relationships and building connections. Because if you don't do that, you will have tumbleweed going through your page. It's as simple as that. But that's not to say you can't do it. You can. And the people who say Facebook pages don't work are usually the ones who haven't worked at it, truly understand the content their customers want to receive and to deliver it. Because when you do, it absolutely works. I mean, let's face it, if it didn't work, why would all these millions of businesses be investing in marketing on Facebook?
Yeah.
So it does work. And you can't then say, well, they've just got millions of pounds to throw at Facebook ads. You'll actually, if you go to a lot of big brands' pages, you'll see amazing engagement on each post, because they're serving content that engages. So, we can all learn from that and apply those principles to our own pages and our own communities to really build them.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And then again, it's that whole buying into that negative cycle and that negative behavior of, oh, it's just not working. And it's just, when you look outside and see the evidence, it just, for the people who are making it work, it's not just because they've got those big budgets at all. They've worked at it. And I mean, I know that you put out you did a whole live stream on this, so obviously I just want the tidbit. Otherwise, I appreciate you're going to be taking that whole live onto this live stream. But you talked about how much you should be spending on ads, and I think people can make this assumption that you have to be spending a ton. But what's your view on that?
Another great question, Jen. Now, I have a Facebook ads course, so it would be easy to say that everybody's got to learn Facebook ads. And I do actually think if you're going to be marketing on Facebook, you have to accept that you do need a budget of some form or another, because you're not going to grow a business fast using just organic reach, because the algorithm is in that case holding you back. So I'm not saying you can't do it. You can. You just got to acknowledge it's going to take you a little bit longer. But you're probably at some stage going to get into the situation where you need to just attract in new people and to reach them. And you maybe need to apply a little bit of budget to do that and get Facebook to help you by serving your ads to people who have not previously visited your page or your website or whatever. So when you get into the realm of doing that, I think you do need to know what you're doing, or you can make very costly and expensive mistakes. So don't just jump into Facebook ads. Take the time to learn the basics, that you know what you're looking at, even to tell whether the ad is working or not. And I think that's the key. Don't run an ad if you don't know how to get a return from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally on board with that. And also, on that same strain of thought, is that these strategies that we're using on Facebook are only as good as the user, right? So if you've got a crap message, if you're too scared to polarize, if you're too scared to stand for what you believe in and what you believe for your industry and have strong opinions and actually lead, there's no strategy in the world that's going to do anything, because it's got nothing to leverage, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting, because a lot of people that do go over Facebook ads with me, and it's kind of like, can you help me set it up, Liz? Can you help me set up the ads so that it'll work? And they're usually quite surprised when I say, well, the first thing we're going to look at is not how you set up the ad. What's your offer? What are you promoting with this ad? Because if you're trying to sell something high ticket to a cold audience who's never heard of you, and you've not allowed them to get to know you, it's not going to work. And that's not the Facebook ad that didn't work. That's the wrong offer for the wrong audience, who, you might get the odd sale, but in the main, it's not going to work. But so often that's what people do. And I think it's taking again that step back to see, right, what's my end objective here? What do I really want to sell at the end of it? And how can I get a return on my ad by putting people through that process of getting to know you, being nurtured, coming to understand your message, deciding whether it resonates with them or not, and then putting the offers to them at the point where they're most likely to react to that. And that's
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I love exactly what you just said there. And I think for a lot of people, the process for them is disjointed. They get so sucked into each individual part. So I'm going to learn what my niche is. Now I'm going to learn who my ideal client is. Now I'm going to, or maybe I need to do a Facebook ad. But actually, until you've got that full funnel experience for the client and to pull them through that journey, to pull them through at the right stage, because again, people like to sometimes tend to rush the stage. They either tend to rush it or they elongate the process so far that when they do come to offering, they're a bit like, oh, you've got something to sell, and then they're so shocked. And in the beginning, the process can be really disjointed in terms of, oh, now I'll run the Facebook ad and now I'll sell to them. But it's like, well, no, hold on, because you've missed out this whole relationship building section where you're going to be nurturing them. And then of course it won't work. And that's when people get sucked into this cycle of Facebook ads don't work, but they're not seeing the full picture and the bigger picture of exactly what you just said. What are you actually offering them? What's your end goal? And how are we going to take them from here to here? But people see Facebook ads as a magic pill, right? I'm assuming you get a lot of this.
Yeah, and it's exactly that, Jen. And I think it's because what most people say to me is, how do I get more sales from my Facebook ads? How do I get that money? And you want to see it instantly. And the truth is that it's more about the long-term lifetime value of that client. So if you get a lead from a Facebook ad, they may not buy from you straight away. You might have to then go through that nurturing process. It might be, a few months before they buy something from you. It might even be years. But if that ad generated that client who did eventually buy from you, it's that value you need to look at and saying, well, that's great, because if eventually they spent £500 with me and I only spent £2 on a lead to get them through my ad, that's a kind of good return on investment, isn't it? I mean, even if it took that length of time to get it. But so often we want to kind of cut out that middle bit and see that £500 straight away because we spent the £2. It doesn't often work like that. So I think it's back to strategy and recognizing that it doesn't matter what you do. You need to take customers through those 3 steps. So whether that's on Facebook, whether it's on Twitter, wherever it is, you've got to attract in the right people. You've got to build those relationships, and then you convert them to becoming customers. So I always call it my ABC of marketing. And that's what you need to then look at your Facebook ads and say, well, at what stage are people in that process, and what's the best type of ad to serve to them that will deepen the relationship or take them down that path, and recognize the fact that your turn may not be instant, but make sure you've got a means of making sure that you do get that return, that you're not just throwing money away.
Absolutely. I love that. I love how you've made that such a simple focus. And I think we can get so caught up in the intricacies of everything, but when you really bring it back down to that basic ABC, it works and flows, and the strategies will work for you instead of being this magic pill or the savior, or even the enemy, because we can sometimes either view it as either it's really complicated and I can't do it, but when you see how it fits into that simpler, more high perspective picture, it makes everything so much simpler. So last question for you then, because it's part of my strategy of moving back, and I say I'm not giving up my group. I'm trying to use both in tandem. So I'm using my page to be more public, a bit more vocal, and be able to get my message out there to a wider audience. And then I say wider, not in terms of who, I'm still very specific on who I want to help, in terms of scaling it up. And part of that new strategy is using chatbots. And I know that you use them, Liz. What's your view on them? It seems to be kind of like the next new thing. Tell me a bit about chatbots and what you think of them.
Okay. Chatbots are really just a way of automating Facebook Messenger that's attached to your page. So it's a third-party tool that you use to send messages. So in a way, it's a little bit like an email list. You can send one-off broadcast messages to people that subscribe to your message bot. You can send sequences in the same way, as I say, you would an email. So it's about deciding whether it's the right tool for you. So I mean, I still think I kind of look at everything that comes out like this. I think, right, is this a shiny object? Is it something I really want to use? And I tend not to be an early adopter. I tend to kind of sit back and think, do I want to do this? And so, yes, I do use message bots, but I think it's for each individual business, looking at your audience. Again, what's your message that you want to take to that audience? And is that the right tool to help you enhance getting that message out there? And if it is, and I think, there's a great place for message bots. Where I tend to use them is to get engagement on my page. So, for example, I have had amazing results by, if I'm going to do a Facebook Live, and I do them weekly on a Wednesday, before that Facebook Live happens, I'll usually put out a post on my page to promote it. And I then attach the message bot to it, that if someone comments under that post with a keyword, it triggers my message bot that will send them the link to the live broadcast when it happens a couple of days later, whenever it is. Now, the real purpose behind that is it means that people who want to listen to the live add the comment, and Facebook goes, that's engagement. It's a comment. It doesn't really matter what they say. It's a comment. So it's making my page engagement go through the roof. It gets my message out to more people because I'm getting the algorithm to work for me. So message bots for me are really a tool to help me get that engagement on my page, and that's my approach to using them. I'm constantly looking at what tools can I use to help me achieve that end goal of having more engagement and having more vibrant page. And as I say, that's why messenger bots for me, I think, are pretty important at doing that. But I think you need to be careful, because at the end of the day, messenger bots are sending messages to people's private Facebook message box. And I'm quite protective of my inbox and my space. I don't want to be bombarded with marketing messages. So I take that responsibility for my business as well. And I don't want to be sending out too many messages from me as a business to people, because that can almost have the other effect where they switch off. So I think it's about, being very careful how you use that to build community, and to get that engagement on your page without just turning into another means of broadcasting to people.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to be really careful not to spam, and again, using it strategically. You're obviously being very clever about the way you're using them, and again, people tend to look at these things as magic pills in their entirety, but you're not seeing the bigger picture about how it all fits in. And I think that's really important as well. And that's why Liz is so great, because she's able to strategize and see how everything fits, and not just, this is how this would work for this specific thing, to actually look at your overall picture and your overall goals and say, this is how everything works. And that's what I absolutely love about your work, Liz. Thank you so much for coming on here today. So where can people find you and check you out?
Okay, best places to come and hang out with me on Facebook, as you would expect.
I'd be really surprised if you're like, yeah, check me out on LinkedIn, which I'm sure you can, but anybody who's woman who's kind of online course creator, infopreneur, in the online space, even if you've got products and you want to use Facebook marketing, then come and join my free Facebook group. That's Women Rocking Online. So you'll find it by looking for Women Rocking Online, or you can go to bit.ly/Women Rocking Online and you'll get me. Or come and like my Facebook page as well. So that's just Liz Melville SM. And if you like that, you can get even more of my content. Perfect. We'll drop those links into the comments as well after this, so that'll be fab. And also one more thing, because people are probably watching this and thinking, oh my goodness, she's just this like font of knowledge. So I know that you've got a couple of things up your sleeve. What can you give the audience that you're talking to right now that they can get from you to learn a little bit more about what we've been talking about?
Well, thanks, Jen. I think the number one question I'm always asked is, how do I get engagement on my Facebook page? So I do have a free checklist that anyone can download if they want to. It's 27 inspiring post ideas to get sizzling hot engagement on your Facebook page. The link, I think, is bit.ly 27 inspiring posts, but I'll check that and I'll give it to you so you can put it in the...
Awesome, yeah, we'll drop them in the comments in here. That'd be fab.
Download that.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming on here today, Liz. You're an absolute gem, and I will catch you soon. I know I'm coming over. You're going to be interviewing me, and I can't remember the date or when, but can you remember?
It's I think it's next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, perfect. And it's fingers crossed it is.
My Facebook page, yes, we're doing swap season. I can't wait to interview
Absolutely.
you.
I honestly, I can't wait for that. So yeah, so we'll catch. So everyone jump over to Liz's page, get there, because I'm going to be over there next week as well. So you'll be able to see us all again back live. So thank you so much, Liz. Take care. Have a fab day.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks so much. Bye.
Take care. Bye.